brightly dressed dolls with an oddly putrid smell. Was this merely an eccentric hobby of collecting vintage dolls? But what if I tell you that the dolls were actually mummified bodies of young girls? Were they murdered? Today we'll be talking about Anatoly Moskvin, the Russian necrophiliac who lived with 20 dead bodies in his house. Welcome to Missing Piece, I'm Dr. P. So speaking of necrophiliac, what is necrophiliac or necrophilia? Necrophilia, by definition, is the paraphilia whereby the perpetrator gets sexual pleasure in having sex with the dead. Throughout time, fascination with the dead has been an ongoing and shared subject for many. The oddly fascinating part about the afterlife involves a possibility of forming some sort of connection with a lingering entity or a loved one who might have passed away. People often attempt to contact the dead by either visiting their graveyard or by using some sort of communication devices such as the Ouija board or radio to make a connection with another dimension to either satisfy their curiosity or to cope with their loss. Historically, we had a quite a big number of infamous people who have taken this fascination a little bit too far, so that they start keeping dead bodies with themselves for years and years. This kind of people includes Anatoly Moskvin. Without further ado, let's jump right into Anatoly Moskvin. Who is Anatoly Moskvin? He is a linguist, philologist, and historian from the Nizhny Novgorod area in Russia. He was a former lecturer in Celtic Studies at the Nizhny Novgorod Linguistic University, who spoke 13 languages, published several books and papers, and was pretty well known in the academic circles. Despite being quiet, his colleagues and family saw him as just an ordinary person with no issue regarding to his behavior and life, though he has these obsessions with the afterlife. However, his scientific papers and journal publications later also came out to help explain his weird and quirky behavior. Anatoly was born in 1966. According to his parents, Anatoly was very socially awkward and experienced difficulties making friends. However, he was also very smart, and his parents simply just chalked up his awkwardness to his intelligence, not thinking too much about it. Young Anatoly has a childhood that was very far from normal. According to him, he began wandering through cemeteries with friends when he was still a young student. In particular, he visited the Krasnaya Etna Cemetery, located in the Leninsky district. In fact, he attributed his interest into the dead to an incident that was to be described now. One day when he was about 13 years old, he was coming back home from school as usual, but he was suddenly stopped by a group of men in black suits. He explained that they were en route to a funeral procession for an 11-year-old girl named Natasha Petrova. They ended up dragging him to the funeral and to her coffin, where they forced him to kiss the forehead of the dead girl, writing that an adult pushed my face down to the waxy forehead of the girl in an embroidered cap, and there was nothing I could do but to kiss her forehead, as ordered. He also added that I kissed her once and again and again. Afterwards, the mom of the dead girl then allegedly placed a wedding ring on young Anatoly's finger and another one on the finger of her dead daughter. In the same article, he also claimed that my strange marriage with Anatoly Petrova was useful. I don't know what he meant by useful. Alright, useful as it was. Moskvin's obsession with the dead was just beginning. Well, I don't know if you believe in ghosts or not, but if ghosts really existed, then would Natasha follow Anatoly wherever he went since then? After this freaky incident, Anatoly began to have dreams about this dead girl. So maybe Natasha was really staring at him when he was asleep. He said that she would visit him nightly and would try to profess her knowledge of black magic upon him. She also repeatedly persuaded him to return to the village where the ritual had occurred. Apparently, after heading back there, the visitations from Natasha stopped, but this would be short-lived, as once he ceased to visit that place regularly, she would again appear in his dreams. Well, he shared this to his parents, but they didn't take him seriously. They simply took him to a doctor who attributed everything to Anatoly's puberty. So after an entire year of visits by Natasha, she eventually grew tired of Anatoly's refusal to do what she wanted, and then she tasked him to perform a black magic ritual using his classmates' teeth, in exchange for her leaving him alone forever. Supposedly, this ritual worked out successfully, as since then, Natasha never appears in Anatoly's dream. But this so-called black magic ritual also successfully kicked off Anatoly's interest in black magic. Voldy, is that you? A few years later in his life, Anatoly decided to study Celtic studies at the University of Moscow. And the Celtic study is actually studying a culture that bears a very close blend in the beliefs between life and death. Also, he joined the Society of the Luciferans. This, coupled with his interest in black magic, would result in Moskvin's performing various rituals on dead animals and eventually vowing celibacy. After graduating from the University of Moscow, he had grown to acquire extensive knowledge of the intricacy of all cemeteries in his area, as he had a deep interest in cemetery, burial rituals, death, and the occult. When sharing his knowledge throughout writings, he claimed that he went over 700 cemeteries in 40 regions of the Nizhny Novgorod Oblast from 2005 to 2007 for his so-called research trip, walking up to 30 kilometers or 18.6 miles per day. So Anatoly was physically very healthy, but maybe not so much mentally. So he was assisted by a fellow academic and publisher named Oleg Ryabov. They documented cemeteries and local histories along their way during this research trip. The end goal was to publish a book that contained all their findings, but as you might guess, Anatoly had an ulterior motive in his mind. The work itself remained unpublished, but has been described as unique and priceless by Alexei Yetsin, who was the editor of Necrophilia. In 2009, local residents in the Nizhny Novgorod area began to notice that the gravesites of their loved ones were either desecrated or dug up entirely. This eventually led to a 2-year-long investigation on these occurrences that seems to lead nowhere at all. However, in 2011, an anti-Muslim terror attacks occurred at the airport in Moscow, and very shortly afterwards, the authorities found some Muslim graveyards that were being dug up and vandalized. After being a potential terrorist suspect, Anatoly quickly jumped out to act like he was simply painting over some gravestones. But he was promptly arrested. He was caught in the act of vandalism, and shortly after, police launched an investigation into these odd acts by Anatoly by first searching his living house. Expecting Anatoly to be an extremist, investigator from the Center of Combating Extremism was anticipating to discover some sort of anti-Muslim propaganda at this place. But what they had found in reality left police completely baffled. 25 initially reported as 29 life-size dolls at the apartments that Anatoly actually shared with his parents. Video released by Russian police showed that the dolls seated on the shelves and sofa in a small room full of books and papers, and they described the room as a house of horror. What was more shocking was that these dolls weren't simply antique dolls, but were mummified bodies of young girls in age ranging from 3 to just 15. Even more disturbing, when police moved the bodies during investigation, most of them made some sort of a jingle sound. It was later revealed that Anatoly placed music boxes in the rib cages of the body, so then the dolls can emit some sort of audible feedbacks when he interacts with them. Anatoly was a very disturbing character. With the shocking revelations, he single-handedly turned the Russian police and media upside down as he was arrested on November 2nd, 2011, as one of the most darkest and most bizarre criminal cases in the country's history. Although only 26 bodies were found in Anatoly's apartment, Anatoly was suspected of desecrating as many as 150 graves, as police found numerous plaques taken off from gravestones. They also found doll-making manuals, map of cemeteries in the region, and a collection of photographs and videos depicting open tombs and bodies, though none of this evidence conclusively connects to the bodies found in the apartment. Investigations indicated that the bodies primarily came from local cemeteries, though some of them may have came from places as far as from Moscow. During investigations, Anatoly actively cooperated with the investigators and claimed that he made these dolls during a course of over 10 years and loved most of them. Anatoly eventually confessed to 44 counts of grave abuse and was charged under the desecration of graves and dead bodies, a charge which carried up to 5 years in prison. He was sentenced to a psychiatric ward shortly afterwards. There, after a psychiatric evaluation, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, and it has been reported that Anatoly was beaten up by guards over and over at this facility. And according to his mom, he was fed up to 15 pills per day, which kept him in a catatonic state. With his mental issue and how he was treated in the facility, a human rights lawyer was hired to represent Anatoly and went on a legal fight. This legal fight ended up earning him a second chance for hearing. As of September 2018, he was offered the opportunity to continue his psychiatric treatment at home, and alongside the ability to essentially walk free. However, in February 19th, a subsequent psychiatric evaluation on Anatoly found that it was too early to release this person, and then the hospital withdrew the petition as a result. Let me tell you some more creepy stuff about this guy. Anatoly performed mummification on the girls for their limbs and face first, before inserting buttons into their eye socket so that they can watch cartoons with him. The clothes that the dolls were wearing were actual clothes in which they were buried. He also remembers their birthdays and celebrated them on time. Maybe he was just trying to make friends. He also claimed that he loved most of the dolls, but there were just a few that he was not very content with. The ones that he grown to dislike were stuffed into their small garage and left to be forgotten. Also, the fact that Anatoly only stole bodies from young girls may have somehow influenced by his childhood experience of marrying the dead girl Natasha, who was only 11. Another thing is that I was very curious why his parents have never taken a closer look at the dolls that their son was obsessed with. Did they know that those weren't just toys? This is the end of our story today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the story about Anatoly and his dolls, please let me know by clicking the like button and comment below. Also, if you enjoy true crime and unsolved mysteries, please subscribe to our channel for weekly mystery and crime stories. See you next time.